Welcome to the Animation Industry Podcast. My name is Terry, and I just got back from the Animation Festival of Halifax this weekend, where they showed my short film, The Silly Duck Wizard, along with a whole bunch of other great shorts. Today I'm chatting with someone whose animation I am blown away with every time I see it, and that is Hervé Nixon of Instagram and TikTok fame. And I super encourage you to go check out his work if you haven't done so already, and you'll see how mind-boggling what he's doing is. In fact, I think he's super ahead of the game when it comes to animation on social media. And since our chat, he has gained over 100,000 more subscribers than he had before on TikTok, and he's just raking in the views. I think he's at over 50 million views on his stuff now, which is insane. Now, besides all this, over the years, he's worked on some really cool projects for clients like Amazon Prime, Dell, and Modern Wolf. And in our chat, he's going to share his journey to social media success and his strategy for making it as an independent animator. But first, this episode is sponsored by TV Paint. Created in 1991 by Hervé Adam, TV Paint was developed to create digital 2D animations as closely as possible to hand-drawn animation and to make it accessible to everyone. Now used by artists, animation schools, and major film studios all over the world, including Cartoon Saloon, who used it to create their feature film Wolfwalkers, TV Paint has many powerful tools that can imitate real-life painting and drawing techniques like gouache, watercolor, pencil, and more. So if you'd like to try TV Paint for yourself, head on over to tvpaint.com to begin your free trial now. Now, without further ado, let's jump in. Hi, Jeremy. Tell me something interesting.
Oh, goodness, right off the bat. Interesting. Okay.
Tell me about what you're wearing on your head, actually. Why don't we talk about that?
Sure, I'll start with my goggles. So I'm an animator. I'm a 2D animator from London, currently living in London. And the goggles, explicitly, I started wearing them when I went to animation school many years ago, 2004 to 2006. And halfway through my tenure there, I was like, man, there are so many like animes and things where characters wear goggles on their forehead, but no one does it in real life. That's silly. So I decided to do it. I was like, what the hey, I'll wear goggles. I bought some goggles, and people were like, what are you doing? and then I lost all my hair, and now I'm just like an old man that wears goggles on my forehead.
I mean, you're giving me really like steampunk vibes. So
I was obsessed with steampunk stuff when I was in my like early 20s.
I'm like working on a steampunk show pitch currently that I got.
Really?
Like do the art for. Yeah.
Damn, that's sick.
So obsessed. Like that's all I read fantasy wise. I have a folder on my computer just called like steampunk images of me just going through Google Images for hours and finding like cool steampunk things. Anyways, besides
love it.
Do they leave marks on your forehead if you take them off?
They absolutely do. Yeah.
Oh no. Oh wow. Okay. So you're just gonna have a permanent dent there.
Exactly. I can't not wear goggles anymore because of my head.
You just wear them everywhere, or just as like an online persona?
No, yeah, I do. Honestly, I either wear a hat or goggles pretty much all the time. And it kind of ties into like, it's a bit of a brand personality.
Totally. Well. You're at the family reunion and people are like, what do you do, Jeremy? And you're like, just look at me. And they're like, oh, an animator.
Yo, you're a starving artist. Yeah, no, I've done like wedding speeches with these on, and I think I got married with them on, and all sorts. Wow. So they're just sort of a part of me now. But I do with different goggles and with different colors and stuff. So it's not the same pair all the time.
Wow, I love it. I always think of like doing something like that with my own image. Like the most of I don't even have earrings in right now, but I got my ears pierced. But I just like wearing a t-shirt and jeans and like nothing else. Like I'm a minimal type of guy. Anyways,
no, I mean I think your style totally works for you, dude. Like, and also like you've got a good look. You're a handsome man, so you don't do anything,
I feel like we're going way off topic, but maybe we are because we're talking about branding, and maybe
absolutely.
You have a past history in branding before you started animation, and that's kind of something that you've said is important to how you've been projecting yourself online, and that's maybe directly related to some success in your career. So do you want to talk about your strategy with branding yourself as an online freelance animator and what you do?
Absolutely. Okay. Well, I'll try and like condense this, but basically after I finished high school, I spent a few years floundering and not really knowing what I wanted to do, then studied 2D animation for 3 years and worked in the industry in New Zealand, where I'm from, actually, for about 2 or 3 years. And then I moved London, UK, which is where I am now, like 12 years later. But so I'd been studying animation, and I'd been doing a little bit of, I'd been working at a few kind of studios and things. But when I moved to London, I got a job at a game studio called Splash Damage. They make sort of FPS games. They worked on games like Quake Wars, Enemy Territory. It's a game called Brink that came out. A lot of sort of shooty, stylized shooty games. But I was drawn to the company because they had this game called Brink. They had this really amazing art style. But I was there for maybe 8 years, and I was on a track towards branding and marketing. I was in sort of the marketing art department. And by the time I left, I was a brand manager for a game called Dirty Bomb, which is also set in London. But yeah, it was sort of like 8 years in, I was definitely heading towards a kind of a managerial position, one that was very much about sort of numbers and how to brand yourself and market the games to the public and things like that. And I was definitely just like, oh God, I need to get back to making stuff, like I was doing less and less art and more oversight and emails and meetings. So basically I just sort of, my wife had just gotten a job herself in animation, and so she was able to support me as I got into freelance.
Oh, wow.
So about 4 years ago now, I left my job of 8 years, and I was like, okay, let's try getting back into animation. It's been a long time. What's going on? But
That's incredible, though. I think you should be very proud of yourself to take that big jump and switch to, pursue something that's more internally fulfilling.
Yeah, it was scary. But also I kind of felt like I felt like I could do it, and with the support of my wife, because she was able, if things went totally wrong, it wouldn't have meant I would be out in the street. So it gave me the opportunity to do that. Yeah, no, go on.
Oh, so what is the biggest thing you learned about branding while you're working at a video game company that, maybe you've transferred over to how you run your career now?
Well, I think firstly, it's funny because I ran sort of kicking and screaming from branding and marketing. And I was like, no, just get me into a studio, get me making art. I don't want to be thinking about this stuff. Of course, not thinking about the fact that as a freelance animator, you're selling yourself and you have to convince people that you're worth hiring or that your style is unique and stuff. And that's all branding. But in terms of what actually brought through with me, there's a lot of things like being consistent, I think, with your image and what you're about is quite important. If you look at my social channels, they've literally got a picture of me with my goggles, because I knew this was something that I've been doing for years, but it was something that does set me apart from other people.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, like, what is something that you do that is consistent with your branding? And is it the goggles over everything? Is that like an example?
I mean, that's an example of something that does set me apart. And like, if I meet someone in the industry, they can say to someone else, oh, it's that guy with goggles, like it's just silly. It's just really dumb, but it's the way that humans work.
Makes sense. Top of mind awareness.
Yeah, absolutely. What else?
What about with the type of content you're producing? Do you try to stay in a consistent world there? Like, do you turn away projects that maybe don't fit the style you're going for or you want, or do you not post those things?
Yeah, I mean, when I was starting freelance, I was like, hey, I can do anything. I'm like an artist. I can do illustrations for you and things like that. And so the work that I got right at the start was pretty broad. But I did realize quite soon that if I ended up doing work that didn't suit me or that I didn't enjoy, it would have just led towards more work like that. And you are definitely only known for your kind of your most recent work and stuff you have been doing. And so early on, it was definitely, there were some moments of maybe I shouldn't take this job, even though I don't have anything else lined up in the next couple of weeks. Yeah, that's it's a scary thing again, because it's sometimes you just don't have the luxury of making that choice.
So you were in a specific situation where your wife was kind of supporting you and you consciously said, like, I am going to refuse jobs that don't equate to the big reason I took this risk in the first place to pursue something that I want. And I'm only going to pursue things that I want. But how did you, if you're not getting work, how did you make sure you were pursuing the things that you wanted to get if you didn't have, you know, a portfolio of anything? And I don't know, maybe you did. I'm just speculating.
I definitely
I'm
had
like, you didn't have any work.
I was just like a wide-eyed child going, can someone give me money? No, I did have a small portfolio. Like I said, I'd done some animation, but years prior. And in my time at Splash Damage, I did also have art and there was a couple of trailers I made for them that were actually 2D animated because we made a couple of cartoony games. So I was basically like, it was a bit of a stretch, but I had enough for a small show reel and some art examples. But I should actually say that I started my freelance career on the platform Upwork. I don't know if you've heard of Upwork. Yeah. Okay. Do you use it, or have you heard of people?
I personally haven't, but I've in my past career I've used it to hire people.
Right.
Like content and make videos and stuff for me when I was in this world. But it's you know, it's a marketplace to sell your services. It's like Fiverr, but more expensive, more quality, I guess.
I guess so, yeah. It really is. There's like a whole range. You can set your price and people can decide whether you're worth it. But the way it works is that for me as a freelancer, I will be essentially clients, will put up the jobs that they need done. And any freelancer that sees that job can basically send them an email saying, here's how much I charge, here's why it's why you should go with me. Absolutely, yeah. And I think my story as an animator, at least a freelance animator, is a little bit atypical as well, because I haven't actually done much in the way of sort of studio work. Only really in the last year or two have I started to take on some more kind of studio jobs. At the start, it was definitely Upwork, and mostly for quite small clients, which maybe didn't pay as much, but they did offer me creative control and really let me put my stamp on things. And I knew about myself as well. One of the benefits about getting into freelance at the age of like 30, I guess, was knowing a bit about myself and knowing what I wanted to do and what I didn't care about. And you know, when you're very, very young, it's like I just need experience and I need to get there. By this point, I at least had experience in animation and art and branding. And so it was sort of like, here's actually what I want to do. And these are the sorts of jobs I will try to get. So again, because on Upwork, I'm only bidding on jobs that I feel would suit me. Already it's like, well, I'm building up my own showreel and my own portfolio with small jobs with kind of that are jobs that I like and that suit my sensibilities, I suppose. Yeah.
So another question I have is, you know, at the start, I guess you were using Upwork to get clients and stuff now, but like I've been on your website and it is, you know, it's absolutely beautiful, your work. Like it's interesting for me as an animator because you take me through the process of like, you know, a blank page and your roughs and the timing and the reviews and like all this, like it's really great. So how much influence does your website have now in you getting work? Like, do people like, because also my past is SEO, so I'm curious. You know, are a lot of people coming to your site just randomly from Google and finding you and just getting in touch with you, or is it more when you make a contact with somebody, you send them to your website to be like, here's my portfolio?
I'd say it's more the latter, honestly. I think people are finding me through my social channels and then learning more about my process and what I'm about on my website. I should also say that like some of the work I've done in the last couple of years has been with collaborators. So where I will subcontract people who I know and trust for larger projects.
I was going to ask about that too, because some of the done looks like it's more than a one-man project.
Yes.
If it is, it's insane.
Wait, which one is this that you're talking about specifically?
The video game with the brain.
Yeah.
Being like squished around.
Skeleton Crew, yeah. That was actually the first job I did that was where I did hire some friends of mine to help with that. So I that's again like a whole nother thing and me learning about how to make this thing work. Wait, was there a question I need to come back to?
No, but I have another one. You know, you mentioned just some of the client projects you worked on haven't been studio work. What kind of, I mean, I know, but like what kind of projects have you been working on?
Okay, so I mentioned at the start that I worked on some smaller projects. I think I could say that one of the most kind of instrumental jobs that I did and clients that I took on at the time was a really cool guy called Youssef who runs a company called Thrash Racing. It's like a JDM, Japanese racing kind of sort of company based in the US and I guess Japan. And he loved anime. He grew up watching anime, and he wanted me to do some anime style stuff for his channel. So for me, that was really interesting because it was honestly the first time I'd ever worked in an anime style. And I'd loved anime for a long time, but my style wasn't very anime, so it was kind of a bit of a challenge. But he got me to do a few jobs for him, and that was where I started to see kind of an uptick on people who were finding me.
Yeah.
And I will say, actually, sorry, go on. Yeah.
What kind of jobs were they? Like they were short snippets for?
Yeah, exactly. Just very
social
short
media,
social.
or
they were for his social channel. They were kind of also used as kind of desktop wallpapers and things. One of the ones that really blew up was it's essentially just kind of a loop of a guy that's like kind of a nighttime scene. He's leaning against his car, he's smoking a cigarette, and it's just a very like quintessential small town Japan scene. You've got this little tanuki next to like this old rundown Japanese shop, and it's like, for me, it's not really my world. I don't know much about the scene, and I don't actually drive and things like this, but he's someone who really understands the scene and is in it. And so he had like photo reference and stuff like that. And it's one of those pieces that for me, like, he put it online and he wanted it to be really like, he didn't want it to be filled with branding. He wanted to do it as like a nice thank you to his followers and stuff. But of course, because it didn't have anything on there that said Thrash Racing or anything, someone else ripped it off. And honestly, it's all over YouTube. There are all these like slowed down Drake songs with this one loop.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, there are like millions and millions of views and like different ripped versions of this one loop I did.
Oh no, we probably wish to put some branding on, but maybe
it's really
so successful with the branding on.
Exactly. It's kind of a funny thing. But then again, who knows? Maybe if it was like heavily branded Thrash Racing, it might not have been shared and copied and stuff like that.
You probably wish you had like your name on there too.
Absolutely. And what I have been doing lately is putting @Nixon Animation on my more recent posts. But sorry, so that was one of the kind of the big ones that sort of set the trajectory for what I was to do next. Because for a start, lots of other sort of like small car companies or like Japanese American car companies saw these things and like wanted to me to do similar work for them. And I will say actually that if you are a freelance animator that is looking to do what I did, which is to create sort of like work by yourself for small brands and things, and kind of go the route of trying to grow your own social media and your own brand rather than just work for studios. One of the things that I found really helpful was when those small brands would link to me on the posts. So Youssef at Thrash Racing, whenever he posted something, he'd be like, this animation is by Nixon Animation. And of course, that just means that suddenly all these fans of anime and cars are suddenly seeing me and following me, and I'm getting tons more requests for like car animations, not knowing anything about cars.
So does that actually lead to more work or just fans?
Absolutely, yeah. So he found I found him through Upwork, I guess, and he decided to go for me, and then I got more work outside of Upwork because they found me through his channel. And as someone who was just sort of starting out on social media, that was something that helped so much, just kind of giving me a foot up for people to see my work. Yeah.
Do you have a specific strategy for growing your social media right now? Now that you're 4 years progressed into your career?
Yeah, it's something that has sort of changed, and it also changes as the social platforms evolve. It's really important to try to see where things are changing and trying to keep up with how things work now. At the start, it was definitely doing work for clients, making sure that the clients were okay with me posting on my own channel, because that's a big thing as well. Posting work, and you talked about my work in progress videos and behind the scenes stuff. That, to me, that's like an absolute no-brainer, because for one, I mean, I like sharing my roughs and things. I think it's neat. For me, it's neat to see other people's work in progress. So I'm like, well, why not? But I can definitely say that in the first years of my kind of freelance career, the stuff that I was showing behind the scenes would get way more views than the final video. The scary thing is that you can do like an amazing 10-minute short film, and like it's just worth nothing on social media. You know, like maybe because it's too long.
Yeah.
Like
5 seconds.
TikTok and Instagram will decide it's not worth sharing to other people. So you can create this amazing work of art and maybe no one will see it. So for me, even if I did like a 10-second loop for a client, I could go, how could I spread this out over 3 posts showing like maybe the roughs here or the storyboards here? Or, that really helped me at the start. Nowadays.
So okay, let me ask you something specific. So you have 150, I think 8,000 followers on TikTok with like 2.5 million views. And like TikTok and like YouTube are like notoriously bad for animators because like A, it's hard to post so consistently because animation takes so much time. And B, like people are just more interested in like trends versus like me trying to like promote my OCs and you know what I mean? Like, so how have you been able to hack short video format, social media for animation specifically?
Well, I will say that, it's funny because I feel like in the last few years, it's been, especially places like YouTube have been a problem because places like YouTube are like, we want a lot of content from you. Like we are valuing kind of videos that are above like 10 minutes, 20 minutes. And of course, as animators, it's
and
just
you're like, see you in 2 years with one video.
Exactly, you know. But I've found that on TikTok and now with Instagram Reels, that very short videos do really well, which is actually perfect for animators. And certainly for the first, so I joined TikTok this year. I said, you know, I may be too old for TikTok, but I'm gonna give it a shot. And definitely my first few posts were just trying to figure out like what's the sort of thing that will catch on, like what is it that makes a TikTok explode? Because unlike like Instagram or or past social media platforms where you kind of know you'll get about this many views because you've got this many followers. The way that social media platforms are going now is like, no, they want to prioritize videos that they know people are watching till the end, that they know are really engaging.
Totally.
And so, and this is the way things are going to go, is that they're going to, for years people have been upset at sort of like the changes to Instagram's algorithm and stuff, but it's, you have to look at it through their eyes, which is like in a totally like capitalistic, how we're going to get the most money out of our users. And that is by just finding the stuff that will keep them stuck to their screens.
So say you're going to post something on TikTok as soon as we're done this chat. What is the formula that you're going to put together with like music and what the content is and how long it is and captions and what is this post going to look like that you have learned to make success? Like you're like, I do this, I know I'm going to get 100,000 views.
Right. Well, the irony is that for me at least, I don't know. Like all I can do is hope. And I feel like as I post more, I start to get a better idea of what I think will catch fire. But honestly, it's the sort of thing where, so for now, I have 157,000 followers. The most recent video I posted has 16,000 views. So that's about 10% of my audience have even seen that video. Like 90% weren't shown that video because TikTok decides that it wasn't worth it or that it's too long, or it's not engaging enough. But I would say in terms of what I've been trying to do and what I've found has worked well is keep them short for me. I mean, I know that TikTok really values completion rate. So if a certain percentage of viewers finish watching the video and it loops, even if they swipe away as soon as it's looped, that means a lot. So
yeah, that makes sense. They're like, people want to watch this, so we're going to push it. And if it keeps doing well, they keep pushing it. So like, what is that? How do you make something engaging for the whole loop?
That's a good.
Are you telling a story? Are you just putting pure animation? Are you like, I know what you're doing, but I want you, because I've seen but I want you to like deconstruct the strategy that you're engaging in for me, because you know, I at some point I'm gonna do TikTok myself, and this is this is my crash course right now from somebody who's already been successful.
So I would say that it's kind, in some ways it's kind of like a no-brainer in terms of that you should keep it engaging for the duration of the video, but like we all know that the TikTok generation and all of us now are so prone to distraction and so quick to swipe. I think like the first things is super important to make the first, second interesting, because if nothing happens in the first second, then you are just going to swipe because it's what everyone does. And these are things that you know from using the platforms as well. I know for myself, I'm like, whatever.
Oh yeah, I'm just like,
yeah. So I think starting by making the first second or 2 seconds something unexpected or interesting or different is ideal. And then I guess if you can, I think you want to either build anticipation for something to happen. And I honestly don't know how many of my videos do this, but I know that that is a way to do something that's successful, is to have kind of an innate feeling of like something is about to pop off or something is going to happen here. That is a great thing to do. I mean, some really long videos on TikTok get popular because you get this sense of like, oh yeah, this cat's going to fall off a ledge, I just know it, or whatever, I don't know how many of my videos kind of tap into that, but I think I would say that my most successful videos are ones that change quite rapidly. And I think maybe you mentioned that some of my recent stuff has been in this kind of AR visual trickery kind of space. That's definitely something I've just done for myself, because I have been messing around for the last couple of years doing things that I thought were interesting. And those have been the sorts of pieces that have actually propelled my social channels like a lot. And so ironically, all this work that I've been doing for these clients has not been as impactful as the stuff that I've just been doing in my spare time because I like the idea of it. And
you're having fun though, like you're just and you're doing something which I think is super unique and really cool and made me inspired. And then I was like, I have no clue how to do this, and then watched you how to do it, and I was like, wow, that's a lot of work. I don't know if I have patience. And then I was like, I'm a stop motion animator. I think
you're a stop motion animator.
So how is TikTok or just getting massive views changed things for your career? Like, are you actually getting client work from TikTok? Are people saying, I saw this thing on TikTok, can you do this for me? Or is it just nice to have a lot of exposure?
Yeah, I mean, my career is in a funny place right now because this is the first year that I have taken on like quote unquote influencer posts, which is I'm sorry, I think my connection has gone a bit wonky. Sorry, can you still hear me?
Yeah, everything's fine.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so this year has been where clients have approached me wanting me to do sort of pieces to promote their stuff in my style, but where they want me as much for my audience as they do for my work. So if you've got an amazing portfolio and you're a great animator or compositor or whatever, studios will want you for your
so skill. Kylie Jenner is like, hey, animate.
Not just yet, but
yeah. But that's very interesting. So social media influencers they understand they have to keep relevant and do cool stuff. So they're getting in touch with you after seeing your cool stuff on social.
No, so I haven't. Okay, so I haven't been approached by actual social influencers. It's more like brands are now seeing me as a social influencer myself.
Oh, okay. So they're wanting to utilize your following.
Yes, exactly. Which is kind of, you can't let it go to your head, because at the end of the day, it's like these are companies and sort of influencer kind of, studios that are literally just looking at numbers on a spreadsheet. They're like, how many followers do they have?
Yeah, I want,
how many views?
I can buy a TV ad for $2 million and get in front of 1 million people, or I can spend $5,000 and get 1 million people on Instagram. Like,
absolutely, which is where people are. The kids aren't watching television; they're on TikTok.
Yeah. How do you even? Sorry, this is too much information, but how do you even charge for your following?
That is something that I haven't figured out yet. Because truly, animated. It's funny because now I'm intersecting with the world of influencers, which is typically people that are acting or dancing or whatever in front of a camera, or wearing, like a Gucci handbag or whatever, like stuff that will take you under a day to film, right? And here I am, an animator. I'm like, yeah, I'll do something for you. And they'll, I think a lot of these people will assume a certain price point, but I'm like, well, no, because it's going to take me a month. So I have to be completely honest and say that, like, even though I've started to do more of these projects, I haven't started pushing up what is just my standard day rate yet. But a lot of that is because the people who want the work they're not used to paying a lot for content, because people can film this stuff so quickly. Your typical
Yeah, I
influencers.
can take a picture of me with a handbag in
Yeah.
like 15 minutes, post done, versus like,
Yeah.
and they're thinking that's the same price point as you, who takes a whole month.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I haven't had studios going, wait, what? But at the end of the day, they have to decide what's worth it to them. So yeah, so that's a funny one for me. But I'm definitely, like, as I grow my sort of channels, it's something I'm keeping in mind, and I basically will go, like, if I go up much higher, I'm gonna have to start adding more to my cost, I guess.
So I think your career path, since you kind of quit branding, is interesting. You were doing like Upwork and then like client projects, and now you're almost getting into a different kind of client project where you're actually, you know, you building a following on your own is paying off, could potentially pay off more than you trying to get client work, because now you have like you have this skill and this audience. So that's very interesting to me. And I know there are definitely animator, like there's Kevin Perry, if you're aware of him. He's like I think he's got like 1 million or 2 million followers on like Instagram, and he does like stop motion and like magic special effects stuff for brands. And it's like, you know, they pay to have access to his audience, and he's extremely talented and skilled at the same time.
Yeah, totally.
So maybe a touchy point for you, but Instagram. Tell me what happened, because you disappeared. How many followers did you have on Instagram, first of all?
I think it was at about 47,000.
So 50,000 followers. And then last week,
I went to log in, I just went to check my Instagram in the morning after I'd gotten up, and it was like, we've logged you out. And I'm like, okay, sure. And it was, you know, type in your password, cool, tap on all the traffic lights, okay. And then it was like, no, sorry, we've disabled your account. You know, I'm like, wait, what? Yeah, so apparently my account has been disabled for pretending to be someone else.
Do you even know who they think you're pretending to be?
Nope.
So how could that even happen? Some people were just mad at you and like flagged you or something? Like maybe they saw some of your work somewhere else and was like, this guy stealing this?
Maybe.
No idea.
I definitely have had comments from people saying like, oh, I've seen this over there, and I am like, nice. Well, that was me, and I did it for a client. But truly, I mean, the scary thing, honestly, in the situation is that I don't know, and that Instagram don't tell you, and it's all AI driven. You know, like, however it happened, it wasn't a human that looked at my account and was like, oh yeah, this dude is sus. You know. So it's sort of like, definitely, you know, you're guilty until you're proven innocent in this case. So yeah, essentially it was like, whoa, wait a minute. And, you know, I filled in a form, and they got me to take a picture of myself holding up a series of numbers. And that was more than a week ago now. And I mean, you know, worst case is that I never get this account back. I should also say that my follower count had basically doubled in about the month before this happened. So it was this really like, yes, I'm on a roll. This is great. Finally, everything is working out. Yay. And then, it all crashes and burns.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking like literally. You're talking pretty calmly right now. I'd be crying and devastated. Like, it's insane to me that, you know, you can had that account for like 8 years or something.
Yeah.
That you spend all that time building it up, use it as your portfolio, the following you gain, like the people you talk to, and then instantly an AI is like, oh, goodbye. Like that's so scary to me as well.
It's
like
really
imagine
scary.
that happens to your TikTok next. Like, where would you be?
Yeah. I think because my sort of trajectory has been this kind of like solo, kind of my own style, building my own brand rather than doing work for other studios. I think that makes it a lot harder, because I don't necessarily have, you know, I've got a lot of clients that I've done work for that have been happy with me, but I think a lot of the animator friends that I have who are, you know, professional animators in the industry, they are just like, you know, in the books of a lot of studios, and, you know, almost like their social media presence doesn't matter so much because they've got just so many people that want them all the time. Whereas, especially for me now, moving into this influencer sort of space, it's like, no, of course, my platform is so important. And I've had to tell 2 clients already, like, look, it's been a week, and I have to be straight up with you that I lost my account a week ago. I don't know why, but there is a chance that I'm not going to have it back anytime soon. So yeah, one of them I've already had to negotiate a lower price in the event that I can't get my channel back. So it's really, really scary. And
yeah, I'm so sorry.
thank you. I appreciate that. I think it has made me aware of, like, I guess how little control you have. It feels like if you have a social media presence, this is yours, but it's really not. It belongs to a company that owns it and can do whatever they want ultimately.
Have you thought about any ways of maybe owning your audience a little bit more, if that makes sense, versus like relying on like Instagram or social media?
Yeah, I mean, like, I've definitely heard a lot that owning the platform in whatever way that may be is sort of like the one way that you can really control that stuff. I don't know what that means to own the platform. I have a website, but I'm not going to start I'm not going to, like, Trump style, start my own social media platform because I got, like, deplatformed. So I don't know. I think it's hard because for me, like, if I never get this account back, I'm just going to have to reckon with that and maybe start a new account, but that will introduce all sorts of other problems. Like, if I can't have @Nixon Animation, suddenly I have one account that doesn't have the same name as all of the rest of them. So if I have @Nixon Animation on my videos, then I don't know.
Yeah, it sucks.
It definitely has. Yeah, it's driven home how important it is to not just rely on a single platform for me. And I actually feel really grateful that I did join TikTok this year, because without it, I think not many people would know I exist.
Yeah, you should go to those people that you renegotiated at a lower price to and be like, hey, I'll put you on TikTok instead if we keep the same price.
Oh no, I mean that was already
oh no,
baked into the deal. It was already baked into the deal. So ultimately, I'm talking about renegotiating for a slightly lower price, because now they don't have access to the Instagram.
Well, you can maybe you can be like, delay it, like, when I get it back, then we'll go back on. That's an interesting question to me though, because even just listening to your story, I'm realizing how vulnerable I possibly am. Like, I only have like 5,000 followers on my Instagram, but like, that is my everything. That's my portfolio. That's who I chat with. That's how I make all my connections. That's where I post this podcast. Like, if Instagram goes, or my account goes somehow, like, I'm just nowhere anymore. Like, I just don't exist.
Yeah.
So, and like, at least from like, my past life in the business world, most companies try to build up their email list, because like, email is like the most valuable way to get in touch with somebody ever. But as an independent animator, it's like, what am I going to do with, like, why am I getting people's emails? What am I going to do? Like, I don't know. If you some animators like make free resources and courses, but then you're not hitting like a massive audience. Then you're just hitting like people specifically interested in like what you're doing. So I don't know. That's a good question. Maybe maybe there's safety in just building up all social platforms.
Yeah, I think so.
One dies.
I know, it's kind of just keeping. That's probably been my biggest learning. I mean, obviously I'm going to be trying really hard to try to get this account back, especially because I think also, I don't know, it's funny because I have definitely made quite an effort to be as like affable and friendly and genuine with people online. So it's pretty hard to be like, there are obviously plenty of people that kind of get views and stuff by being controversial and by, being mean or whatever. And that's not really my jam.
What the heck?
But I don't know. Hopefully it'll have a happy ending and I'll get through to a real human at some point and someone can help me. But that's the hope.
Well, I sincerely hope it comes back soon, because I also noticed that you were gone, and I was like, and then I was like endlessly searching, and I was like, what is going on here? Is he okay? So, okay, I have a question about like, how often, so you're 4 years into your freelance career. What is, I guess the right word would be stability look like? Are you constantly working all the time? Are there big gaps? Have you created like a thing where you just manage your time where you're like, now I'm going to take a break, and you can, or just like, tell me how it's going, like.
I mean, I have, for the most part, for maybe the last 2 or 3 years, I have been basically, maybe 3 years, I have been basically working just consistently. which is really great, and I'm really thankful that it's been like that. I think at the start of, in fact, the reason I joined TikTok is because at the start of this year, I had like an unusually dry patch in February or something. And so I was like, well, this is scary, but I'm not doing anything.
Might as well get really famous on another social media platform, I guess.
Well, I mean, I guess that's the irony, is that it was like a lack of work that caused me to now be doing influencer posts. It's crazy. But yeah, I think it's been pretty smooth. The first year, definitely, when I was trying to get work on Upwork, there was gaps between jobs. And I think scheduling is like kind of a tricky thing as well as a freelancer. You're freelance, right?
Yeah.
How do you find it in terms of balancing, like getting jobs and then balancing your time?
I've only been a freelancer since January this year, so
Wow,
it's been okay so far. So I was working full-time in a studio for the first 6 months. Then I like consciously took a break because basically my past was I quit my business job, immediately went into animation school while also like consulting like in the evenings and like working on projects on the side. So I was like doing school full time, and then I was also doing like freelance animation gigs full time all last year, every single day last year. And so once like August came around, I was like, I'm taking a break. So I worked on a small project this past month, and now I'm working on a couple more things right now. And animation's great because you can never talk about what you're working on until years later.
I think that's actually one of the benefits for me. Oh yeah, I guess I didn't really mention it, but my work has mostly been sort of in advertising, really.
Oh, so it comes out pretty fast.
It comes out fast, absolutely. And I haven't, I mean, a lot of the animators that I know, obviously, are like that. They're in the position of working on pitches and things for shows that never happen. You can spend years without anything to show for it, that you're literally not allowed to show for it. So I'd say that's one of the positives of working in the commercial space is that everything you work on is out. And if you can play your cards right, then you'll be able to post it on your own channels as well.
Totally. Yeah. I think it's, and like you can also be like vastly differently creative with each project in a short amount of time, which I love too, because there's something where like you're working on something for a long time and you reach a point where you're just like, it's not that it's not still creative or fun. It's just, you're just like, I want to start something new and exciting.
That's totally true for me. And I'm definitely someone who kind of craves change, I think. And, from my years working in the games industry, I was working on single games for three years straight. And again, it doesn't really matter how much I love the project. It's just, itching to do something else. Also, there's this kind of, when you work on a project, like starting fresh on new projects is great, because if you learn stuff about improving your process, or even your own production process or whatever, then you just get to like start again every time. It's so good after being on projects that have legacy issues and kind of like old code, and you just can't escape it. It's like a breath of fresh air to go, all right, starting something new. But I've been lucky to have a real range of projects going.
So what are you actively working towards? An ideal scenario, ideal project? Like, are you somebody who's like, I want to create a feature film one day? Or are you somebody who I just want to work creative projects as long as possible? Like, are you working towards something with this? You chose freelance specifically as a career instead of the studio life. What is it in your future that you intend to be in your future? Not, to be honest, I'm taking you down.
That's my single goal in life now, is to get my account back. I have a very clear goal. Hopefully it's a short-term goal. No, I mean, when I started freelancing, it wasn't hyper-focused. It was like, I just want to be animating again, and I want to be paid for it. And that was all I wanted. Maybe about 2 or 3 months ago, I had like a waking up in the middle of the night epiphany about what I wanted to do. Yeah. And man, I haven't told anyone apart from a few close friends. And so honestly, I probably shouldn't say it here because I don't want to jinx it. Maybe I'll tell you off camera, that would be fine. But
okay. I mean, I feel the same way about things, but then I also try to remember, like, as soon as you say something and put it out there, then your brain takes it a little bit differently, and you're like, this is actually okay. I can actually talk about this with confidence and try to do
Yeah.
it. You don't have to say it on this podcast at all.
But it is essentially, without giving away too much, it is because in the last 4 years I've done some work by myself. I've also done stuff where I'm subcontracting and working with like kind of my friends and collaborators on bigger projects, which I really enjoy in a more kind of a directorial kind of style. But what I've realized is that I honestly do really love just being a jack of all trades and doing stuff myself.
Yeah.
Also, I do. I have worked for 4 years in commercials in the commercial area, but I am like a huge fan of storytelling and of film in particular. You know, and for the longest time, it was like I'd love to direct a feature film. I don't, you know, that's not really going to happen on the track that I'm on. But what I will be moving towards and planning will be something that is definitely all me or mostly me, and something that is adjacent to, it will be storytelling, and it will be a long project. And yeah, I probably shouldn't say much more than that, but
that's
essentially,
fine.
yeah. And this is only something I feel like I've really considered seriously because in the last year, my audience has grown. And you know, like, so essentially I'm thinking at some point I want to start Patreon or something like that. But it's really hard. It's hard to make a living off Patreon, and I definitely need many more followers than I have now to get to that point. So yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Well, I wish
I'll tell you after the call.
I can't wait, but I also wish you amazing success with what you're doing. I mean, I think what's stopping you? You intentionally got into this career path. You've been doing great since, and you know, you're figuring things out. Why not? And you're an amazingly talented artist too. Like the stuff, just like the stuff you design and your characters and like your background paintings. Like I'm like, whew, like I could never do anything like that.
Oh,
even if I don't know, like took a class from you, I'd be like, I just can't do this. So
I don't know. Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm sure you could, but anyway, whatever. I appreciate that.
Just one other random question that I have. So you work in TV Paint, and I've only worked mainly in Toon Boom for 2D animation. Have you worked in Toon Boom as well?
Oh man, at the start of my freelance career, I did like a 1-day Toon Boom course because they were running one in London, so I went to it. But I had to make that decision, like which software do I use, and I opted for TV Paint. And
what was the biggest reason for doing that? I'm just curious.
I mean, I have to be honest, that cost was one of them. TV Paint is not cheap, to be fair, but there's a one cost. You can buy it straight. You can just be like, I'll put down $1,000 and then it's done for the pro version or something like that. And for me at the time, it was like, well, do I want to pay every single month for Toon Boom when I'm already paying for the Adobe suite?
Yeah, I think Toon Boom's like $90 a month or so, or you can even get higher. And so it's like you'd be paying more than that in 1 year, I guess.
Yeah. So, but also TV Paint does suit me in that it is definitely like for hand-drawn animators, for classical animators. And I literally studied pencil on paper animation. That's how old I am. So I do like that TV Paint really replicates that feel of you know, true kind of hand-drawn animation rather than the vector stuff of Toon Boom.
Nice. Okay.
Interesting. But I haven't used Toon Boom much, and I know Toon Boom is super useful for a whole lot of stuff. So maybe at some point.
Yeah, I mean, so there's like drawing tools in Toon Boom, and like they have different textures and things like pencil, chalk, whatever. But I guess a good thing about, at least that I like about Toon Boom, is if you draw with the right tool, it creates like pivot points in all your curves. So like you can hand draw something and then go back in and fix lines that didn't work out and stuff like that. Can you do that in TV Paint as well?
Not like that. I think because TV Paint is raster, I think that's one of the advantages of vector work, is that it's so flexible in terms of changing stuff. TV Paint is really because it's raster, it's less like I can't just squish things around forever because you'll start to lose detail. This is the problem I have, is I haven't used Toon Boom for long enough to really compare.
So that's contrast. Okay. I'm just curious what the experience is like with TV Paint. That's all.
Yeah, for me, in recent times I've found great ways to import TV Paint After Effects, which is what I use to composite. And
do you create all your backgrounds in TV Paint as well?
Oh man, no, I think I use Photoshop for most of my. It's funny actually. I've realized that I actually really enjoy just drawing in TV Paint. Like I thought it would just be the same as Photoshop, but there's something about just sketching that I actually really like in TV Paint.
Ah.
But I don't know, for my paintings and backgrounds and stuff, I'm using Photoshop and sometimes Procreate on iPad. So I'm kind of all over the place and kind of, but whatever it is, I end up kind of squishing it together in After Effects at the end, which I also really enjoy After Effects. So yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy the amount of programs you need to just make one thing happen.
Yeah, I'm actually really lucky because when I was studying, it would have been like 2006. Okay, this is a whole nother part of my story, so I'll try not to like bog you down, but essentially myself and a friend at animation school decided to start our own studio. We were like, flush with youth and we thought we could take over the world on our own. And so we sort of had this crazy idea of that once we had finished animation school, we would start our own studio. And we did for about a year, and then realized that we were just living off ramen noodles, and I was literally sleeping in the basement of my friend's house, and that's where we were working. My friend's parents' house, I should say. But anyway, we made a couple of short films. One of them was sort of like has done really, really well on YouTube. It has like about 5 million views, I think. And
oh wow.
Yeah, it's called Entropy. If you search for Entropy short film, it'll come up. And that was directed by my friend Dane. It was his third year project at animation school. And so we spent the year after that working on it together and basically finishing it off. Anyway, the year before that, we did another short film called Ectype's End. And essentially I was like working in Photoshop and finding a way to like fake this 3D moving background. And this would have been in 2006. And my housemate comes in and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, I found this amazing method of like stringing together actions in Photoshop to fake this like moving 3D background. And he's like, you could do that in like 2 seconds in After Effects.
Yeah.
And I'm like, after what? After where?
I've reinvented this new technique.
Yeah. So I actually spent my last year at animation school just in my spare time learning After Effects as I worked on the short film. Yeah, that has obviously come in really handy for me in the years since. And I'm sure After Effects has just changed and evolved so much since then. But yeah, that was really great for me to like learn that program and to get into it. Yeah.
So we've Jeremy, we've heard how you got into things, how you switched up your career, how you built up your freelance animation career, and all the twists and turns that have happened there, including all the social media ones. Is there anything else that we'd like to share, or that we missed out on, or you think is important for people to know that if somebody's listening to this and they're thinking of switching out of their career from something else, or even just from the studio life into freelance world that you've experienced that would help them?
I would say, I think I covered it already, but I think it honestly is important to not, if you can help it, I know it's hard, but to try and take on work that matches your own sensibilities and what you like. Because it is completely true that if you do a bunch of work in a style that isn't you, then that will almost certainly be the work that you end up having to do because it's what you're known for. You were mentioning also before about TikTok and trends. I would say that you should have a healthy appreciation for what is going on in TikTok and stuff, but I would also say that if you can think outside of the box and come up with some interesting kind of either animation techniques or ways of presenting things that maybe you haven't seen before, I think that is just as, if not more important than jumping on the latest trend. And I would say for myself that some of my videos that have really taken off were kind of born of me going here's something that I haven't actually seen on TikTok before. Why don't I try this? There's a marriage as well. There was a CD cover challenge where people were mocking up their own CD covers, and I'm like, well, why don't I animate one? So I faked this. I think that's what CD
actually got me exposed to your work. That CD cover, and it's something I'd never seen before, ever. And I don't think I've seen it yet. Do you want to explain it? I mean, I think people should just go and watch it. In fact, I'll just include a link in this podcast description to it. So if you're listening, check out the description and I'll link it.
Cool, thanks. Yeah, that was the first in what has become a bit of a series, and what I've been known for, I guess, in the last year. But essentially, it is me just holding kind of a CD up to the camera and kind of turning it around so there's a bit of movement, and it appears that the CD cover behind the plastic is animated. And so it's kind of this very trippy thing. People are like, wait a minute, is this real? How did you do this? And the honest truth is that it's really not that hard at all. I'm just using After Effects to map an animation to the front of a CD case. The CD that I'm filming has black. There's like basically just a black CD cover. And then I'm taking the reflections on top of the black and I'm just superimposing them back on top of the animation. So it's honestly not that hard to do, but I think some of the best things are like simple ideas that maybe you haven't seen before. So since then, I've realized that other people have done sort of similar things. So I don't think I'm a true original, but it has, I've sort of taken that idea and I've done kind of more things with it. And if you look at my channel, there's some stuff, and I have upcoming work that will also kind of try to push that idea further and further.
Nice.
So yeah, I would say that was something that was born of a trend, which is the CD cover challenge, but where I added my own spin to it. So nice. I think in a world of social media where everyone is seeing everything all the time, if you can do anything to stand out, yeah, you should do that and try stuff. You know, don't be discouraged when you create something that you think is going to blow up and it doesn't, because that definitely happens. And some of my biggest posts have been ones that I just sort of throw out, and I'm like, I don't know if anyone will care. And then yeah, absolutely. But yeah, be yourself and try things, and yeah, have fun with it, I guess.
I love it, and it's just simple advice too, and it totally makes sense. Is there anything else you wanted to share as we're wrapping up?
Oh goodness me,
you don't have to.
I don't know. I don't really have anything other than, I guess, if you work at Instagram or Facebook or Meta, please go send me an email or something.
Okay, well, thank you so much for coming on the chat, Jeremy.
Thanks, Terry. Yeah, it was great to chat.
Yeah, it was great to meet you and have this chat, and I'm really excited to see what else comes out of your work, and also I hope Instagram comes back to you. And you know, if you're listening to this chat and you want to follow Jeremy's work or get in touch with him, you can look at him up at nixonanimation.com or at nixonanimation on any social media like TikTok or YouTube, except for Instagram right now. and make sure you check out the links in the description, because I'll include one to the kind of like AR CD cover he did, which is really cool. So check that out. That's all for now. Thank you so much for listening. Okay, bye. The music for this podcast was composed by Will Farmer and the graphics by Daniel Abensauer. I encourage you to look them up if you enjoyed their work.